Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We'll just wait for a few more seconds for everyone to trickle in. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Just some housekeeping items as folks are coming in. This is a recorded webinar, so at the conclusion of today's presentation, you'll be receiving an email with today's presentation, the video file, and also the link through our YouTube channel. So by all means, like and subscribe so that you're able to see a library of all of our previous webinars that we have had throughout the entire year. In addition, some housekeeping items. If you have any questions, strongly encourage you to put them in the Q&A, and in the chat, by all means, introduce yourself. What type of business do you have? What type of contracts have you trying to solicit? If it's state, local, federal, this will definitely enhance the conversation in today's presentation with Mirtha in terms of what are some challenges that you're experiencing, and also some of the benefits and advantages for today's for your business, and also carry on the conversation. In doing so, if you have to step out or whatnot, like I said, this is a recorded webinar, so by all means, you'll be receiving today's presentation once again. So I want to thank you all for attending today's webinar, and then I'll give you a brief introduction of what exactly is the Miami-Dade Business Navigator program. Next slide. So a brief description of what is the Miami-Dade Community Navigator Pilot Program. It was established in part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to assist you, the small business owners, in the overall economic recovery, of which the program is comprised as a lead hub. In this case, it is the Florida SBDC at FIU, as a center of networks with spoke organizations that deploy the community advocates to work with the small businesses on the recovery and the resiliency. The overall goal is easy. It's to assist you, the small business owners, in the recovery and the resiliency, with the core activities that include the technical assistance, the training and outreach, along with the sharing of information and resources. By creating this local community navigator network, it assists all small businesses that are socially and economically disadvantaged with the consulting, mentoring, and training, by targeting the minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned, and LGBTQ-owned businesses. Not only with the Florida SBDC at FIU, but we also have Ascendis branches, the EDC of South Miami-Dade, the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, Prospera, and Startup FIU Procurement. All these 7 organizations are able to assist you at no cost with the confidential business consulting to assist your business needs, if it's access to capital, government contracting, marketing, networking opportunities, business planning, launching your own business. We have consultants that will be able to assist you at no cost as well.
All right.
Yep. And then allow me to introduce you to Mirtha Roy. She is our government contracting consultant from the Florida SBDC at FIU. And Mirtha, the show is yours.
Thank you so much, Jesus. Thank you for always putting this together and make it seem so seamless. And I want to thank everybody, all the participants that are on the line with us this afternoon. My name is Mirtha Roy. As Jesus said, I'm the one of the small business consultants under the SBA Navigator program that can assist with many business needs, including incorporating your business in Sundays, what I call from cradle to grave. But my specialty is to really help you understand the government arena, because that's my background, and also how to dress up to take advantage of what the government offers. So this webinar is going to cover, why would you even consider doing business with the government through contracts and certification? So what are the different certification programs that the government has to offer on different levels, local, state, and federal? What the funding sources, how funding sources influence the type of required certifications that translates in the types of requests that the agencies or the government puts out to get contracts. So depending on the funding source and what they're requiring for that those particular source, level of government agencies, because these are the potential customers for every one of you on this line that you want to target if you want to do business with the government. And products and services, yeah, there's the saying that the government buys everything, including the air that you breathe. So I would break down a little bit that, it depends on what the government needs and when, and how it's important to do your market research to know exactly who you're gonna target to sell your products and services. So the benefits, advantages, the types of certifications in federal contracts, what are set aside and participation goals, because all that ties with certification and different methods of procurement. So as I said, the big question to everybody, all business owners on the line, is why, why even consider the government? Because the government, everybody knows, you have to really, it's not for the soft at heart, like people would say. However, I also, in my business, advise small businesses, remember, you're the backbone of the economy, and the government understands that. And so there are programs for you to take advantage of, this government. And I know a lot of people are not even aware of this business. That's why, of this office, excuse me. That's why I highlighted it. It's the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. This, every government agency, especially 24 of the ones that I'm gonna have on the slide that's coming up, they have this office. And whether you have to sign up and become, a registered something on their website for you to have access to all the information and training. To me, as a small business owner, the more information you're equipped with, the better your decision can be. So we talked about the Learn the Government Certification Program. So now, these are, in general, what they would call, under small businesses, they have other categories of certifications. Then you have your DBs, your small disadvantaged businesses. So this is, these are federal. Now, the small business can be federal, local, and state. Usually, small disadvantaged business has to do is federal. So federal covers usually everything. And then you have your service disabled. Now, for veterans on the line, even if you're not a disabled veteran, there's also a certification for veterans or service, service-owned small businesses. Actually, it would be veteran-owned small businesses. And then they have this service disabled. You have your women-owned, requires anything that's 51% or more of the business can be classified as a woman-owned if the woman is qualified to be able to manage a business. And then you have your hub zone. So why is this important here? Because if you could, these are the goal for the government. And this is in billions of dollars for 2020, how much money that they spent. And there's spendfed.gov that, is a website that gives you what the government actually spends, because it's our tax dollars and it's public funds. They have to give you this type of information. But the interesting in this slide is the percentages of this $1 billion that had to go to this designation. And those designations are only if you're certified under them. So, even HubZone, I would say, 2.4% of 13 billion, that's not a bad thing to have, and so on and so on. So and key benefits. So 3% of all prime contract dollars mandated or awarded to hub zone. So the hub zone, you can qualify for the hub zone by two categories. You either physically have your business location in what the SBA has designated as a hub zone area, or you have to hire, I believe it's 30 to 33% of the contract staff in that hub that resides in that hub zone area. So people always say, oh my God, 30% of the staff. But just think about it. It is a contract that requires 2 or 3 manpower. If you hire just one person that resides in a hub zone, you already meet the requirement of that contract. So under these hub zone contracts, so contracts set aside, which we'll cover. So this meaning that these contracts are set aside only for hub zone, so they're designated for hub zone. So besides the set aside, they can justify sole source. And sole source, guys, is the best contract to have with the government. So sole source means there's zero competition, that you have demonstrated to the government that you can, deliver the services competitively, with the right resources. And usually sole source also covers that there are not many other, you have a specialized service, so there's not many people that has what you have to offer. And then you have your full and open competition, and these are for all large businesses. We don't recommend any small business, where even if you're medium sized, to try to compete for full and open competition. So as I was saying, the government wide 23% of the $1 billion has been dedicated for that year has to go to small businesses, period. So of that, and I'm sure, I can't say I'm sure, the top government federal government certification is the 8A program. As you can see, it's a 5%. 5% of 150 billion, that makes a good difference. However, the 8A program is the only certification program that you can only have for a period of 9 years. And it's not renewable. You cannot come back and ever get it again. And I see that a lot of startups, and what I call startups, or even companies up to 5 years, they want to go straight for the 8A. That's not really, unless you, in your 5 years, you were one of the lucky ones that got straight into government contracts. You have past performance, you have references, and they ask for minimum. And when I tell people they ask for minimum of 3 years, that doesn't mean that, if somebody come up with 4 to 5 years, it looks a lot more attractive, okay, of past performance. But 3 years is the minimum that they would ask for. And, certified financial statements. So this is a big boy program. So I usually advise people, there's other federal programs, certification program that you can get with the government while you're building yourself. You can get your local certifications and also state certification, and try to get contracts at those levels prior to going for the 8A. So for the women-owned small business, there's the WOSB, which is open to everybody. But as a subset of the WOSB, you have your EDWOSB, that stands for economically disadvantaged. So that means that, the woman-owned is open to all kinds of women, as I would show you the slides as it come up, but the economically disadvantaged put you in a smaller group. And the whole idea of certification is to get as many certification that you can qualify for, and that puts you in a more premier group, so you can be attractive, versus small business. Everybody can get that, but then, like the WOSB is not a bad thing to have, But if you qualify for EPWSB, that even put you into something higher. Service disabled, same thing. You have your service disabled veteran, then you have your veteran-owned businesses. There are certain contracts that prefers the service disabled over veteran-owned. However, if in that pool they cannot find any service disabled that can fulfill that requirement, they would automatically go to veteran-owned certified business before they go out to a small, certified business. So we talked about the hub zone. And so amount of federal contract spending in the last 5 years, so we can just kind of concentrate on 2021, which, 645 billion. As you can tell, 2020, we know what this number was so crazy. It's all the PPP is, and all the COVID and emergency contracts that had to be written for that for that year. So this is not bad. I mean, when you take, I would take like 0.01% of this $1 billion if I can. So so levels of government. So that's where when I talk to my clients, and and we are, now that we dressed up for government, and you're in, the important thing to do is to target a market, target your customer base. The government is so big, you can't go after everybody. Once you determine and you're clear, and we have other consultants, that help you with your business concept, understanding your products, your pitch, your price analysis, as I'm working with you, or you're already assigned with another consultant, and they would refer to you to me for government contracting. So that's how we work with each other. We interact where, while I'm getting you government ready, you have another consultant trying to help you zone in on which customers are you gonna go for, based on because as I work with you, you're gonna know your product codes at a federal, state, and local level. So by, so product codes or NAICS codes, as you all are familiar with them, so they identify the services that you have. So the federal government wants you to have a primary code, okay? And I'm gonna throw in this little thing real quick. And your primary code, a lot of people don't know, has to be the code that's on your federal income tax for your business. And so that's super important. That's something I learned a few years ago, and I had the wrong code on my taxes. So, so that's how I learned the hard way. So you have your civilian agencies and you have non-defense agencies. All these people have their own budget for contracting. So I like to put them up in so you can go ahead and have an idea. You have your military agencies, depending on your services, depending on your products. These are the people that you're gonna look up and say, let's spend that on this, and they're really friendly to small businesses. And doing the analysis, you can even deep dive to find out if they even met their goals for the last fiscal year, and what categories are they looking for, to meet their goals. And so you have also independent agencies, like I was just throwing the few of them in there, depending again on the type of services that you offer. This would be the kind of agency or the kind of, clients that you're gonna start courting. You're gonna start building relationships with, because it's not you see something on the advertised, and people think that just because I put in a bid, I'm supposed to get the contract. Let somebody know what you do. Build relationships. That takes you a very long way. It's illegal really for the government to give contracts. Many people say, oh, government only give contracts to people they know. Well, there's a justification behind it. As government officials, there's laws and regulations that they have to follow. However, if I know that Jesus, gives me good service on IT, I'm gonna let my other vendors know. So that's a word of mouth and stuff like that go around. So as we said, your product or services, they may not suit everybody, all the time. There may be one person that uses, more than others, or use it completely or not. Like I work with a veteran guy. He's engineer for, aircraft engineer. So he started getting looking to defense logistic agencies because he understood aircraft parts. So he's been selling through request for quotes. Request for quotes is just quoting a price for it, so that, and he's been getting, little build up there. So that's past experience. Another guy that I know is into IT services. So I'm encouraging him, go look and see if there's any kind of products that you can start exchanging, because these are like short term. They ask you for so many products and they tell you, the manufacturers, if you fulfill that, you send it in, you don't wait 30 days for your money. Once they get receipt of the products, they cut you a check. So there's so many different ways to maneuver the government. However, it takes patience and it takes a lot of research. So we're gonna get in the gist of today's presentation. So the benefits and advantages. So I always tell people, to me, I was accused of being an habitual student at one time, where I had all these certificates and diplomas around my wall. So basically, certifications can be that. It could be that, you get all your certification, put them up on your wall. Now what, right? So, but however, certification do have their benefits and advantages, but you gotta work that certification. You just don't get it and put it on the wall because you have it and you think that contracts are gonna come and fall on your lap. Your certifications or leverages, these are your tools to leverage to be able to, get contracts. So they, give you access to business training. As I said, the OSBUW, the website earlier, the Ombudsman website for small businesses, they have some wonderful training things. SBA, oh my God, the SBA website. And of course, as you're filling out the profile, they like to see that you're registered, that you're certified, and more things, are open to you. Access to government, things that you wouldn't even know about the government. The certification can open so for you, and increase your business partnership. What does this mean? So this means that those big contractors that are getting the contracts, for example, I always like to use Florida Department of Transportation. What they do, they build those big roads and the big bridges and what have you. So these contracts tend to go to the Jacobs or the big muscle guys. However, the government, federal FDOT is a federal agency, so it has to meet the 23% of that budgeted amount that they gave him, that they gave that agency to contract out for that year. So they're gonna need your certification to be able, because once they give the contract to the big guy, what we call the flow down clauses, the federal government is gonna flow down these clauses to the prime contractor and said, now it's your responsibility to meet 15%. And so the contract usually will state that category, whether if it's a hub zone, whether it's supposed to be a small business, or if you have to be a DBE. So this is where it's, the partnership opportunities are good. And I also advise my clients, not only government agencies, you can also identify up with 500 companies that you think are your competitors that can turn into your collaborators. How? You leverage your small business certification, your small business readiness, and let them know in the next big contract you're applying for, these are the services I can offer. Usually these companies have something that's called a pre-qual on their website, just like the government. You have to register as a vendor, either, do a pre-qualification, because usually they would what they call pre-vet you. So like that, if you're in the system of database and they have a need, they would definitely reach out and ask for a quote from you instead of trying to figure out if you're in business, you have your right your insurance and what have you. So training workshops, again, there's so much, management, technical guidance, networking opportunities like this. Because of the government, we're able to do this with you guys this afternoon. So touching on types of certifications. So you have your local certification. Now, I'm emphasizing Miami-Dade, but that stands for Broward and West Palm counties. And so we don't really service West Palm, so I'm gonna stick with Miami-Dade and Broward. So Miami-Dade County does the SBE, which is the Small Business Enterprise for goods and services. So anything that's not construction or architectural falls under goods and services. So why is this separate? Because they usually ask for, these things are regulated by the state. For construction, you have to have your general contractor's license, an architect and engineer, your your CPA. So these types of people you have to have. There's an extra thing that is required, but it's the same type of certification. Sometimes just different documents, additional documents will be required here for your to be able to do business in that category. Now, still Miami-Dade County. I'm not sure about Broward on this, but for Miami-Dade County for sure, you have your SBE, and that's for architectural engineering and goods and services. I need to fix this. That's the difference between the SBE and the LBE, which is your local developing business enterprise. Miami-Dade County requires that you have a local business tax receipt. I'm amazed that a lot of my people that comes to me had no idea of local business tax receipt and did not, understand the requirement of a local business tax receipt. A local business tax receipt is as soon as you put your business on Sundays, the next step should be your local business tax receipt in whatever municipality that you live in. If it's Miami-Dade County, they have one. If it's Broward or West Palm. Because your business now exists in the county, you're permitted, whether it's home-based or whether you have a physical office. The local business tax receipt is required for every business that is registered on Sundays. Why is that important? Because without that, you cannot get certification with Miami-Dade County, with Broward, with West Palm, nor with the state. It's one of the required documents. So the difference between these two is this one you can get, even if you were to get your local business tax receipt today and you sign up with the program and then we start working, we would decide to apply for Miami-Dade County. The application is gonna open for both. And as we move forward, and then you upload your local business tax receipt, they're gonna come back and tell you don't qualify for the SBE, but they would proceed. So I always tell my clients, look, it requires kind of the same painful documents and painful steps to do this. Let's go ahead and do the LBD. And then 1 year, exactly 1 year to the date of the local business tax receipt, we're gonna apply for the SBE. Usually all your documents that's here, that's transferred here, except for the affidavit or few stuff that to make sure that there has been no change in the management of the business. So that's the difference between these two. And even if you had incorporated, let's say last year, and did not apply for a local business tax receipt, and you decide, you know what, I hear me have to talk about this, let me go to local business tax receipt. As you completing the application, it doesn't allow you to change the date. The date of that you open the application is the effective date of the business in their system. So I know some people try to change the date and think it's no. You can't change the date. It's the date that you apply is the actual effective date of the local business tax receipt. So your DBE, so that's the disadvantaged business enterprise, which is like a federal certification that can be obtained from Miami-Dade County Small Business Development Division. And so the Florida Department of Transportation, that's the one certification that they recognize. And there's some federal projects in the state of Florida would require the DBE certification.
Martha,
So,
Martha, excuse me
yes.
for 1 second before you proceed. If you could go to backslide, yes, right there. The local business, what? Can you list the name of this document here in regards of the local business certifications? Is the SPE working with the Miami-Dade SBD, the Small Business Development Division?
Right. These certification only Miami-Dade County. They only recognized and work in Miami-Dade County, with the exception of the DPE that is federal, that works with Florida Department of Transportation.
And in this case, for the to do business with the county to get the SPE, the and how to do business with the any other agencies here in the county, Martha could also help you out along. I myself can connect you virtually to my colleagues from the Miami-Dade County Small Business Development Division. So by all means, they're a pleasure to work with, and we do hand in hand. And just unveiling the curtain, I am planning and thinking of doing a webinar with our colleagues from the SPD as well, how to do business with the county. So in terms of what certifications, what you need in terms of doing business at the airport towards becoming an HVAC small business throughout the to become a preferred vendor. And
Well,
then
I'm sorry. I'm so glad you mentioned the airport. I don't mean to and I need to update this thing. But the airport is the ACDBE, is the airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise. Now, the ACDBE is only for vendors that want to have a built app, or that want to be a vendor, or that want to, have a restaurant. So this is the only thing that it covers.
And then going in terms of a mixture of everything in terms of the local and state side as well. Can you elaborate a little bit more what exactly is a hub zone certification or hub zone business?
Okay, now hub zone is federal, and I have federal coming up, but I'll cover that real quick. Hub zone are designated area by the federal government that they have designated them as urban underutilized areas. So if your business is physically, and there's a map, you can just go to sba.gov and type hub zone. There's a map that comes up. You type your address, and it tells you if you're in the hub zone or not. So that's one way of actually getting certified, and where you can go after hub zone contracts. Now, there could also be a contract advertised for hub zone area, and you have the capability and resources to deliver those services. The other criteria to meet for that contract, if you're not physically located in a hub zone, is to hire 30 or up to 33% of that staff on that contract must reside in the designated hub zone. Does that help?
Yeah. And then it's gonna be a piggyback. So I have a what type of contracts can startups pursue with no past performance? I have an online store currently. Also, I have a virtual address in a hub zone, while my home-based business address is not on a hub zone. Can I use the virtual address to qualify in being a hub zone?
With that, whatever your corporate documents are registered. And I tell people virtual offices, I have seen, I believe the federal government does not recognize the virtual office. Some local, I think, yes. The idea of being certified and the qualifier, meaning the person that they're vetting for that certification, has to meet all the criteria that the government, requires, first as the business owner, now as the business itself. Wherever your the IRS sent your determination letter, that was for your FEIN assignment, where your business is registered on Sundays, because all of these documents are gonna be required as to be uploaded, so they can make sure that whatever you're saying, who you are, these people don't know you from Jump Street, and they have a zillion applications coming at them. So that's why I always tell people, transparency is the best policy, especially dealing with government. Because remember, those criteria are made for everybody. So if you don't have a certain requirement and you can justify why you don't have it, it's okay to proceed with that, certification application. For example, for the state, there's a 12-month payroll report that they ask for. And my clients, even a client that has been in business for 2 years, has maybe 1 or 2 employees that probably is not even on W-2. So we will do payroll, a letter justifying that at the current state right now, the business does not have any kind of payroll records, blah, blah. So, yeah. And I think I'm kind of going all over the place at the issues, but yeah. So what kind of contract can a startup do? What a startup does is understand, what your services are. One. So once you've done all that, if I usually would even start with subcontracting opportunities. Because, as a startup, it's hard to say, Jesus. A startup can have all the resources in the world. They can have their family, invested whatever, so many dollars. So they're able to do staff, they're able to do whatever. But most startup is usually, if the owners doesn't have a full-time job and trying to do this on the side, trying to get this company off the ground. So in order to get any contract, whether you're startup, whether you're established, whether you're whatever, you have to be a responsible, contractor, meaning you have to have the resources. Resources meaning human resources, depending on what the services are. Everything is so broad. It's so hard to be saying, yeah, it's not like cut and dry. And the structure is super important. As a startup, you're going for a contract that requires, 5-6 staff. You cannot use W-9 on federal contracts, sometimes even on state and local contracts, depending. Again, each contracts have their own requirements, the reps and certs, which is your representations and certifications, your terms and conditions. Before, I tell people, you look at the scope. Oh, oh my God, this resonates with me. This is exactly something I can do. Now, please, the next step, go to the terms and conditions. Understand what you understand what the government is asking for. Fine, the service. How does the government want it? In what manner? All of these things are gonna be spelled out. What can you do on this contract? What can you not do on this contract? If this is a multi-year contract, is this like a short-term contract? I mean, all of these things will be in your terms and conditions. So once I look at my terms and conditions, and see, okay, I can do this. You know, now I go to payment terms, because payment terms is super important, especially as a new vendor with any entity, and that including corporate 500 companies. Getting you set up in the system and, you know, divulging that first check is always a hiccup. And understand the 30-day clause, the 30-day payment clause in the contract clearly states that if the government receives a correct, you know, I forgot all the words they used to have. You know, we have to make it. It has to, you know, all your I's has to be dotted, all your T's has to be crossed, all the you know, commas has to be in the right place. All your PO number has to be, there have to be no hiccups. Because what happens is the invoice that's on the contracting people's desk, it's stamped. It's date stamp and time stamp. So the 30 days start with me. If I'm looking now, sometimes if I have only 10, you know, it's like the 5th of the month, there's only 10 invoices on my desk, and it's a small business. And I could say, oh my God, they forgot to carry that line over there. So I would pick up the phone and say, you know, Laura, you forgot to do this. You know, do the correction right now and send it and send it to me. And so keep the clock going. Scenario B, I have 25 invoices that have been collected in the past 4 days. I'm looking, oh, she forgot an extension, you go into reject file. So not that you're being mean or anything. So now your 30 days goes into 45, maybe 60 days. You have to be able to pay your staff. Because whether you get paid or not, whatever services that the government is required under that contract has to continue to be served, you know. So you gotta meet payroll, whatever it is that you gotta do on that contract, you gotta do it. So what kind of a contract does a startup, established business, whatever, this is a personal decision of the business owner, depending on your capacity, depending on your resources. You have to be honest with yourself, you know, of what you can do and what you can deliver. Nothing is worse than you've been in business at, you know, 2-3 years, and then you go for this contract. Oh my God, you write this proposal, you win it. And maybe Jesus can do that class again when we had something on proposals. But now that you win it, what? And a lot of people lose it once they win it because they didn't make a plan for winning that contract. So, you know, but that's a whole other class. I hope that I answered the question. Is can we move on, or you have another question?
You're good.
Thank you. So as I said, you know, the school systems, they have on, oh, I'm sorry, let me go back to this real quick. For example, Jackson Hospital here recognize the SBE or the LBD. They don't have their own certification. Miami-Dade College. So there's a lot of local municipalities that recognizes this certification because they don't have their own. And the same thing with the school boards. The school boards have their own budget for contracts, and they put out their own contracts. They're not part of the county. So the good thing is, once you're, you know, certified with Miami-Dade, you can, Broward County will recognize you. If you go in, once you get your certification in your municipality, you go into their website and you start completing their application, and you let them know you have this, and you upload it. They give you some kind of pass where you can do business with them. The same thing with Palm Beach County. So they call it the Tri-County agreement, only for the school board. First is, if your business is located in Miami-Dade County, you can only get a small business enterprise or LBD in Miami-Dade County, and only can do work for these certifications for Miami-Dade County contracts. And the same thing with Broward. If you're physically located in Broward, you cannot get a Miami-Dade County SBE. Same thing with Miami-Dade. If you're physically located in Miami-Dade, you cannot get a Broward County CBE, and with West Palm is the same thing, except for the school system that has an agreement where, if you get from your municipality, you're able to do business with them, with the other ones. So now the state of Florida, because that's where we are. So they give the small business enterprise certification. And they also have the DBE, which is the same that Miami-Dade offers, that Florida Department of Transportation recognizes. And then they also do the veteran certification. So all certification requires the first step, you have to be a vendor in the system, be assigned a vendor number, have a vendor profile, and then from the vendor, you move on to the certification application. And for the federal certification, the first thing with federal is you have to have a SAM profile. And, SAM profile is a multiple step. You do the profile and then have to proceed with registration once your profile is approved. And as you do the registration, right prior to submitting that button, there's a button that says to link you to your SBA. A lot of people misses that. And so when you do that, it's a multiple step. I'm not an expert in it. I walk people through it as we share our screen because I'm familiar with some of, the language and the steps, but they throw me for a loop every now and then. And for a minute, they'll lock, people's account and you have to call the FSD number. But it's something that I can help people maneuver to. That's what I do. So who is recognized by the government? Yeah, large and small businesses. The government cannot be, gender, they have to be gender and race neutral because, this is federal dollars. So everybody qualifies. So that's why when I'm going to show you guys why it's important to kind of put yourself in a smaller group as you can, because there are monies set aside for these groups, for these socioeconomic programs where you don't even have to compete with all the big people. So for your service disabled or just veteran in general, whether you're a large or small business, as long as you have served, could be a male or female, it doesn't matter what your, ethnicity is. You can, you qualify for this if you meet the criteria. And so that's what I talked about earlier, the ETWOSB. So the only difference with this is reserved only for minority women. And so this certification is this, you open this up and then you can choose to also do this. This requires that you demonstrate your minority status and your economic disadvantage. And so it's a multi-page like personal financial statement that they go super deep into stuff that you have, if you have any interest in any other companies. Like I said, transparency, here's the thing. They're not asking you, local, state, and federal, in this application, they're not asking you for any information that they don't already have, just like the IRS. So it's, how you respond and are truthful. And my thing is, be transparent. And there's always an explanation. If there's a justification, that's what you give. But as you can see, this one is open to, large or small business. And this one is only too small. So meaning that, the pool is smaller here. So that's an advantage over this. And so again, your veteran-owned business, you don't just have to be service disabled. If you served in the military, and this one only requires the DD-214 for the veterans on the line, where this one requires your DD-214 plus your disability award letter. So the hub zone, again, like I said, based on location or workers, and you can be anything and you qualify for hub zone. Again, location is like if you're physically located, your business is physically located, not a virtual address where you're physically located. They can, your local business tax receipt is registered there. Your son biz is registered there. That's where you manage your business. That's what they look for, where you do the majority of that business. That's what they call the location of your business. Or if you choose to get your workers from the hub zone. And the 8A, the same thing. You can, whatever you are here, you can, fit for 8A. All right, so the difference between set aside and participation goals, really, they have to set aside a percentage dollar amount of these contracts in order to meet the goals. And the goals are mandatory by law, federal law. They have to meet those goals. So they have to have the set aside, meaning that, the fiscal year started October 1st. So when the last quarter of last year, when they were working on their projections, and for each agency, what contracts they're gonna, work with the technical group, what the urgency of the work that blah, blah, was gonna come out. So and so let's say that Department of the Health Department, is allocated, 2 billion for the fiscal year 2023 that they gotta spend starting October 1st to September 30th, 2023. So a percentage of that 2 billion will be set aside for the small businesses. And so the goals is how they would, they reach the goals by putting the set aside. By contracting, that they accomplish the goals by contracting 2 small certified businesses, depending on what, the criteria is in that contract. And these are at least, some of the federal agencies that have set aside in participation goals. So at a, minimum, if any of these agencies, resonate with you, or any of the services that you give, or you can say, you know what, let me just pick 3 or 4 of these and go to their website and see what they're buying. And they even have the buyers listed. They have information. I'm not shy to pick up the phone and call. And then until, you get what you want. But one thing I'm going to advise, and I used to wear that hat on a federal level, please do not call a federal official and expect them to guess in your head why you calling them, or, we'll get a call. Yes, Miss Roy, I was looking on the website and I saw your name. Yes. What can I do for you? Be specific, be intentional, right? You're gonna be, I usually would even write down the stuff that I wanna, because even though I know a conversation doesn't go, but the key points. So, because when you call, you wanna find out something. Let's say if you wanna find out, I'm a small business and I want to introduce my company. And these are the service codes that I have. I looked on your website and saw that, these codes. So can you help me find the buyers? Have something that you're asking for. Just don't call and, because people get super aggravated. And trust and believe, you have a little buck on your name. So don't waste time and be intentional, because your time is as valuable as theirs. Which is important. So as we just said, federal and non-federal entities, they have to comply with, certain laws, whether you're federal, state, or, local level. The laws flow down just like anything else. So I'm gonna share with you guys, so methods of procurement. What does that mean? meaning how the government acquire the goods and the services from, you guys, from government, contractors. So you have your stuff that's called your micro purchase. Usually, no quotes are required there because there's a certain dollar threshold. So what the buyers do, they can do this with a P card, they can do this with a purchase order, and this usually doesn't fall into a 30-day payment terms. So that's called your small purchases. It's always good to try to find out, where these small purchases are. And I've been trying to do that in Miami forever. So the last event that I attended, they tell me that most of them, they put in the pre-qualification polls. And so Miami-Dade County, besides the certification, they have something called pre-qualification polls. I know for sure they have it for janitorial services, engineering. I can't recall all the service, IT. So these are like where you pre-qualify and the purchases are rotated. So the requirement for them to use this, your price has to be reasonable. Of course, because you're in this pool, doesn't mean that you can charge them 3-4 times over, because you're not gonna be the only one that they would reach out to, because it doesn't say sole source. Okay, so it wouldn't be the only one that they, if they feel your price is outrageous, they'll just go to the next person on the, if they're using a pool, or if they send out the request and they get, the 3 quotes, which is not even really required under this, but the best price, and best price and best quality is what the government looks for. So our next method of procurement would be, that's your simple and informal bidding. So this one is usually, anything over the 10,000, but your threshold of 21,000, why 21,900? But I think I saw 25,000 since COVID. I have to search for a new slide. And so here you have, so for goods and services, so we're gonna do this line first. So I'm sorry, goods and supplies, it's like office supplies, the PPE equipment. These are the kind, aircraft parts, these kind of things, something tangible. That's what products. These are for your products. So this is the amount, and so that's for your seal bid. Now, for your, simple and informal, up to that amount, anything over the 21,000 up to 215, they have to do formal advertising. So this is a little bit more restrictive. So that's why, as a startup, always try to look for, I always tell somebody, right? If you get 4 of $25,000 purchase order, that's $100,000. I'd rather just do something small that you can manage, because you're building capacity, you're building your reference, and then if you do a small one and you really do well and you get some good references, I can guarantee you that buyer is gonna let their fellow buyers know, and if and they would even send you. And you do anything over the 25,000, if you have the capacity to say yes, you would definitely be more on top of the bidding. Bidding list. So this one, formal advertising, and we can get into that. So that's usually your RFPs, your request for proposal, or your RFQs. The difference RFQ is request for quote, where they're really based on just the price. Where we request for proposal is RFP, where it's really price is secondary, is capability is for RFPs. So now, if we're looking at services, they wouldn't use seal bid for services. They're gonna go, straight into public, public advertisement for anything that's over 21, let we say 22,000 for argument's sake. So that's where, where they would solicit the bids, and the contracts could be, firm fixed price contract, all that. That's why I tell people, always go and look at your terms and conditions for anything that you're interested in. Once you know that you can do that scope, and you have the capacity for it, because it tells you if it's going to be a firm fixed price contract. If it is, you better make sure that the price that you quote is what it is, because you don't have any way to, go back and renegotiate with them, and so on. So, because this is a whole other class on different types of bidding. So I'll move on with this. So your non-competitive proposal. So on the goods and supplies, these are appropriate and they're available. We talked about the sole source, meaning that only this one company can do this in the manner that the government is requesting it. So public emergency, I mean, we saw what COVID did in 2020, or if it's expressly authorized, by the award from the authoritative agency. Because as an agent, I can say that I really need this to not be competitive. So that's what I would write my justification as a contracting official, that I need this contract. And I used to have these contracts really when doing was it the Gulf War, they call it, the 99, the one in 99, in the early 90s, before I moved there, when I was still like in DC, when, where some contracts, you just don't really even see the scope. I was just told when delivery was made, and, and when to authorize payment on this contract. So these are like big emergency. And so, or if after they solicit from many different places, and usually what they do at this last one, I don't know if many of you have received something called sources sought, SOUGST, that from the government. Usually when this comes to you is because the government is trying to find, are there any sources out there that can fulfill this requirement? Because they're looking, and it's always good, whether you're small, big, or medium, that if you can do those services, that you answer by the date, because like that it allows them to know, oh, there may be one or two companies that I can invite them, so then they will do an invitation for bid. If if it's just that little people, or if there's nobody at all, only one person replies, then they can justify their sole source, where you just know that contract's coming to you, there's nobody to compete with. So for services, exactly the same things, the same rules of requirements. So the requirements are solicitation from only one source here. So you can only, solicit from that one source, because you're saying that, it's not available anywhere else. And that burden falls on the contracting office that's trying to, get a contract to acquire those goods. So again, it can only be used when qualified circumstances apply, that we talked about here. And these contracts are usually fixed price or cost reimbursement type contracts. So you have your time and materials, there's different types of contract the government, awards. And so, as I said earlier, a lot of people don't do this, and that's really not good at all. So when you're thinking of having your business, and you make sure you have a concept, what you're gonna do, blah, blah. So now you're ready to legalize. So you go on Sunbiz, and as Jesus said earlier during the introduction, we have a group of over 30 consultants that are specialized in different segments. So we can go from cradle to grave with you. And so we'll help you register your business and obtain the federal tax ID number. And a lot of folks don't know. Please save this letter as part of your corporate documents. It's super important, because that letter is required both, I know it's required for the LBTR, local business tax receipt, and other certification I can't recall from the top of my head. So once you get this letter, you're gonna save this letter. And if you don't have it, for the people that don't have it and you're thinking that you want to proceed with certification or vendor registration or anything after this meeting, please try to locate this. If you cannot locate it, you can just put a determination letter, business determination letter from the IRS. A number's gonna come up, you can call and request it. It's very important that you have that as your corporate document. And then you have to obtain your local business tax receipt. Of course, I have the one for Miami, but I've helped clients do also for Broward. And for example, if you were to either have a home-based business and you reside in North Miami, or is it Cutler Bay is the other one? Miami Shores, all the these municipalities require their own local business tax receipt. And sometimes as you're looking for, for example, if you have to register, let's say if you're not Miami business, and of course, I highly recommend that whatever municipality you're in or you're paying taxes and your business is in, you let them know that you exist because you want to start getting their contracts, right? So they're gonna ask for that. So not only the local business tax receipt, like where I live, my municipality requires that I get both. So I have one from the county and I have one from the local municipality where I live, because my business is registered as a home base. And so, the Dun and Bradstreet is getting almost nil to none, because now Sam does the EUI number, the employee unique identification number now. That's what they ask for in SAM. So the DUNS number is getting to be almost none. So this is the end of my presentation. If there's any questions.
Yes, I have a few. In terms of the hub zone with the virtual addresses, it is listed with SunBiz and IRS. So right there is,
So the virtual address is listed at SunBiz and IRS.
yes.
The next thing I will have to do with this client is go into the hub zone requirements and see if a virtual office is acceptable. Then if it is, then we'll move forward with it.
Yeah.
Because the physical office is not there, I play devil's advocate, because the whole idea is having your physical space there. But okay.
Yeah. And then in terms of the hub zone, once again, so my business is a mobile business. Even though our office is on a non-hub zone, we don't do business there. Does that work?
I'm sorry, they are mobile business.
It's a mobile business, even though our office is on a non-hub zone. We don't do business there. Does that work?
I didn't really get the second part of the so
Yes.
let me break down what I've heard. I hear that they are mobile business, even though they're not physically located in the hub zone. They do work in the hub zone.
Great. Yeah, like I guess I'm assuming like their office, it's just like a virtual office, if I'm not mistaken. If Alexandra could like reply back, I could have more information with Martha. Now home-based businesses, do they qualify if the house is under a hub zone?
Yes, it's the physical address. As I said, I designated one room in my house as my office. Because remember, as you do certification, you're gonna get site visit. I looked at in 2020, they did a virtual visit for me, but I literally had to have a camera I showed them the room. I showed them my local business tax receipt that was hung up. I showed them where the name of my company is on the door. I had to go outside and show them the number to my house so they can verify the address. So yes, I mean, there is a verification. So how they're gonna verify a virtual office?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have any additional questions, just please put them in the Q&A. But at the same time, if there's any additional questions in terms of how we can continue assisting you with your business needs, also what are your 2023 goals, by all means, we strongly encourage you to go to our website, miamibusinessnavigator.com. My colleague Laura, she put the link to request a meeting with Martha, but at the same time, our other consultants under the Navigator program as well. And then at the same time, feel free to follow us on our social media channels at Miami-Dade BizNav through Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But at the same time, today's presentation is going to be uploaded at our YouTube channel, which is Miami-Dade BizNav. So like and subscribe. And then at the same time, I have one last question for you, Martha. So basically, it's better to have a residential address than it is to have a virtual one if you can't afford a separate a commercial office.
100%, again, depending on your craft. For example, I do admin and project management services. So I can, depending, like, you're not gonna, I don't know, like a medical practice and have a home-based business, issues. I think if they can just meet with us so we can do like full assessment. I don't want to discourage anyone, but however, if we do it right from the start, we don't have to go back and fix anything.
Yeah, just by registering with the link below, we could definitely have that one-on-one, and we'll be able to cross the T's and dot the I's, and also finding additional contracting opportunities for you. So I want to thank you all for attending today's webinar. And like I said, we'll be in communication with the next steps, and have a wonderful day and take care.
Thank you. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Laura.
Bye-bye.